Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Mark Newsome with us. Mark, thank you so much for joining and welcome to the podcast.
It's my pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah, so for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what you do?
Basically, I don't think we do. You probably are a lot more digitally sophisticated than I am. But ladies and gentlemen, by and large, I'm just a small business marketing consultant. I work primarily with independently owned retailers and service providers. Pardon me. And what I try to help them do, and what I'm going to try to help his audience do, and he's going to help me help you, is just take non-traditional approaches to stuff you're probably already doing. And you'll find that sometimes you can get a maximum of 5 to 10x more results for less money, less time, and less effort, and it's repeatable.
I'm curious, how do you do that?
That's excellent. Say, for instance, now I'm going to start with an offline example, but we're going to work it all in. Let's say he has a independently owned, bakery shop, right? He's got one location. He's rocking and rolling, people coming in all times. But just like any other business, he needs his customers to spend more money. He needs them to come more often. Here's where I would come in. I would say, here's what we're going to do. You're going to go invest in some big, giant plastic, what we call big gulp cups, right? And you're going to sell your largest, extra large beverage. You call it the big gulp. You're going to sell it the first time you sell it to them, they pay retail. But every time they come back and bring the cup, let's say it costs $11.99. When they come back, as long as they bring that cup, they only pay $3.99. Now, what just happened? Instead of them going across town to the franchise place, they're going to come back to his spot. And they're going to come back more often. And guess what they're going to do while they're in his shop? They're not just going to save money on that big gulp. No way. They're going to get the pastries, the muffins, the donuts, all the other stuff that they would normally get. But they're going to be ethically bribed to come back to his spot because they're saving on that front end product. And guess what else they're going to do? They're going to take that mug to work or if they own their own business, and they're going to sit it on their desk and somebody's going to say, hey, what's the deal with that big bloke? And say, this guy Mark down here at the coffee shop. You just go down there. The first time you pay the regular retail price, but when you bring the cup back, instead of paying this, you pay this. Folks are going to jump on social media. They're going to do their selfies. They're going to tell their neighbors, their sister, their brother. Word will spread without him having to go on outrageously expensive local radio, local primetime TV, and no offense to you online marketers out there, he doesn't have to worry about his pay-per-click ad campaign now. Because word of mouth, and I like to say mouse, is going to spread this thing like wildfire. And he's not trying to make less money on a beverage. He's using that as a magnet, just like a bar would say, free drinks for the ladies. They do that. The ladies come. And if the ladies come, we come, the guys, right? So it's a lead magnet strategy is what I'm saying.
Okay, so what do you mean by dead assets in a business?
Ooh, there's several, but here's the first one. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody knows at least 25 people. Here's what most businesses are doing. They're running their business and they're not tapping into their customers, their employees, and their vendors. All three of those resources know people. So what you could do, you could have a buddy plan. You could have, like for instance, let's say I run a retail appliance shop two suites down from where his bakery is. And he says, Mark, you tell your people to come in here, get the big gulp. From now on, instead of them paying retail when they come in here, for the big gulp, they only pay this much. Now, all of a sudden, all of my employees, and I tell my vendors, and he lets me put something up in the store so my customers know to go there. Look what he's just done. That's called leverage, ladies and gentlemen. For this amount of effort, look at all the word of mouth and mouse he's going to spread. They're going to go back home. When people come to their house and say, hey, where'd you get that cup? You know, the bakery guy over there? Yeah. You go in there the first time, you pay retail. The second time, you get it at this cost. That beats advertising, in my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say there's a barber shop down. He goes down there because he knows the barber. And he says, hey, man, listen, you guys can. Matter of fact, he goes down there and says, how many of you drink coffee, cocoa, or whatever? He says, okay, he brings 6 cups. He says, I'm going to skip the retail. When you guys bring this cup in from now on, you only pay this amount. Where do you think they're going to go? Now, the back end of that is he knows they got birthdays, they got bar mitzvahs, they got graduations. That's where he's going to make his money on that stuff selling the retail. But to get them in the door, he's going to ethically bribe them. That's a small example of what I mean by not utilizing dead assets. These people are on your payroll. You already have a sunk cost. And then if you pay them by the hour or if you pay them a commission, you and I should be maximizing that relationship. I call it relationship capital. Actually, the gurus I got this from call it relationship capital. But it's so true. Like, ladies and gentlemen, think about this. This gentleman has a podcast, does he not? Now, I could spend all my time trying to build a podcast audience. He's already done it. Why don't I figure out how to become a guest on his show? Because now we go from 1-to-1, what he and I are doing, and when he publishes the episode, it's 1-to-many. Same effort, same time, right? That's called leverage, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you and I want. Leverage.
Okay. How can a cash-challenged business owner still grow fast? By leverage?
How can a what kind of owner?
Cash challenged.
Yeah, cash challenge. Got you. Okay, kind of what we're already tying into. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to write checks. Networking. Your vendors know people you and I don't know. They have employees who haven't done business with it yet. They have customers who haven't done business with it yet. In fact, I want to hear something. We don't have time to get into it, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to promise both of us, when you get off of here, you're going to go look this up on Google. Use Gemini, use ChatGPT, the free versions now I'm talking about, and go to YouTube, put in what is total lifetime customer value. Read an article or two, watch a video or two. You have the concept. Think about this, what he just said. How am I going to grow without cash? Okay, think about it. Instead of me running an ad that's going to fall on deaf ears for 99% of the people who see it. In fact, what are the figures you have, Atul, about how many times they typically have to run an ad before the public even begins to pay attention? What figure have you heard? In other words, I'm saying on average, they teach us when you run an ad, you're going to have to run it anywhere from 7 to 21 times, right? They call it touches, exposures, before the public will say, oh, I see what they're doing. Okay, you don't need to do that because that's costing money. Here's what you could do. When you know what your customers were, I find out what his customers were. We're talking total lifetime customer value. What if his lifetime customer value is $3,000 and mine is $2,000? Rather than spend that whole $2,000, what if I invest $500 in his thing? Because on the back end, he's going to offer his customers, his vendors, his employees, my product or service at a discounted price to expose them to me. This is how you multiply. In fact, I don't know how, I'm not trying to ask or talk, but I don't know how many downloads you get, but I guarantee you when you reach a certain amount of downloads, corporate America is going to come knocking on your door saying they want to run advertisement. Why? Because he's got an audience. Well, the way you build it from scratch, you start using leverage. Listen, all he and I are saying right now, and this time we got together, is 8 plus 2. There's 7 plus 3, 6 plus 4, 5 plus 5, 9 plus 1, 20 minus 10. That's all 10. It's just a different way to get there. You got so much leverage sitting in front of you, ladies and gentlemen. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. But you won't ever see it unless you start hanging around people like him and myself so you can get a new perspective. The opportunities out here. Don't let anyone kid you. The opportunities are out there. All you and I got to do is, why do you think I'm on this man's podcast? I want the exposure, right? I want to reach an audience. I don't want to spend thousands of dollars on pay-per-click trying to reach people that he's already got access to. and neither do you. So I hope I answered the question. I mean, if I did, I apologize.
Yeah.
There's all kind of ways to get leverage. In fact, think about this. Let's say Atul is his company's worth $100 million. And if that's a discounted price, I apologize, Atul. If your company's actually worth more than that, my bad. But let's say his company's worth $100 million. He's getting interviewed all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I create portraits, right? I mean, like really nice hand portraits. And I say to him, I say, hey, man, if you'll put my portrait on your wall, I'll do a portrait of you and your wife and your kids, your dog, your favorite car, whatever you want. But when you do your podcast, I want it directly behind you. So somebody's going to hit the chat and say, where did you get that awesome portrait? He's going to say, oh, this is my portrait guy, Mark Newsome. I'm finna make money. You understand that, ladies? I'm leveraging his exposure. You and I can do that all kind of ways. Most corporate America people, ladies and gentlemen, they're like this. They have tunnel vision. You and I got to be like that, because that's where the money is for you and I. We can't go head to head with these people. Their pockets are too deep. There's no way. But what we can do is get creative. And if you do that, I'm telling you, you're about to open the floodgates to some whole new way of thinking and whole new opportunities.
Okay, so why should startup be careful with social media marketing?
Oh, excellent question. I'm so glad you asked that. Ladies and gentlemen, hear us out. I know he's told you this. Now I'm telling you this. Unless your last name is Zuckerberg, you know, the gentleman that owns Meta, or Reid Hoffman, the guy who co-founded LinkedIn, you and I don't own those platforms. Do not kid yourself. Yes, they're free. You get to do all these things, but here's the bottom line. I like to explain it like this, Atul. I'm 100% on social media. I don't care what platform it is. It's like sleeping on your ex-in-law's couch. She may come home one day and say, Atul, I love you, but you got to go. Now, where's that going to leave him? Homeless. Ladies and gentlemen, I cannot tell you the many times, and I'm sure Atul, you've heard it too. You're on one of these private webinars, and the guru or the guruette, meaning, you know, if it's a lady teacher, they will admit in private their Facebook account, their LinkedIn account, their Twitter account or X account, their Instagram account, their TikTok account got shut down temporarily. Sometimes they don't get the accounts back. Well, if you're trying to run a business, you and I can't afford that. So you say, okay, well, Mark, that makes sense. What's the alternative? Ladies and gentlemen, if anybody tells you opt-in email is dead, run in the opposite direction. Keep building or start building your own opt-in email list. Would you agree with that at all?
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. Because you and I are in control. You can contact your list whenever you want. Now, excuse me, if somebody unsubscribes, that's okay. They probably weren't going to be a customer anyway, so let them go. The bottom line is the people who stay on our list, they want to hear from us. They've raised their hand and said, hey, that's interesting. I want to know more about it. That's why they joined our list. That's the people you cater to. Don't get caught up in this hype of, well, I have 500,000 followers on this and 500,000 followers. That's great. But that stuff can disappear just like that. And if it does, and that's the only way you're getting access to your audience, you're going to be in trouble. Don't do it.
Yeah. You know what? In 2025, at the starting, I think it's February, my Instagram account got banned.
Ladies, wait, I'm sorry. Repeat that, but I don't know if they heard you. Repeat that for them.
My Instagram account got banned.
There you go. It happens all the time. I used to be on something. I don't
Yeah.
want to date myself too much at all. I was on something called Help Pages way back in the day. They shut my account down. I don't know what I did. They claimed I violated some term of service. Like 6 months later, I got it back, but it taught me a lesson. And from that moment on, I had my own self-hosted WordPress blog, pardon me, which I still have to this day. You know, because I can put the content out I want, how I want, when I want, as often as I want. You and I can't do that with social media, ladies and gentlemen. They're in control, not you and I. So don't misunderstand what we're saying. Of course you should be on social media. Don't 100% rely on it, or your Titanic is headed for an iceberg.
Yep. Instead of that, use social media to build your list.
Absolutely.
What's one list building move is your favorite?
If you're a retailer, ladies and gentlemen, here's a no-brainer. I promise you, no-brainer. Let's say he owns a retail appliance store. If he's a client of mine, here's the first. In fact, I will tell him this for free to try and impress him. Here's what I would suggest he do. Create a free drawing in his store. Take something that he was finna put on discontinued or the closeout inventory, something that's popular. Offer that as a free drawing. People love free. And they love something that's valuable for free. Now, what's going to happen? They're going to join his list. He's going to choose one first grand prize winner, and everybody else is going to be a second grand prize winner. And guess what the second prize winner gets, ladies and gentlemen? An extremely time-sensitive savings if they'll drag a friend with them who's at least 18. Now, what would you do? 10% off, come by yourself. 30% off simply for dragging somebody who's at least 18. That's a no-brainer, right? Several of the people, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, we call this the McDonald's technique. Any reason why we call this the McDonald's technique? Because I know this has happened. You either walked into a McDonald's or drove through the drive-thru and you said, could I have a strawberry shake and a quarter pounder with cheese? And that cashier, all of 16 to 25, comes back and says, would you like fries with that? Look at what just happened. They didn't have to go back on outrageously expensive television. No. Outrageously expensive radio. They didn't have to run an outrageously expensive billboard. They didn't have to pay for an outrageously expensive newspaper to get you and I to spend a little bit more money. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we call this the eight of the most powerful words in sales and marketing. Follow this. Would you like fries with that? Now you say, well, wait a minute, Mark. You said 8. I only see 6. That's correct. That's the first 6. When you and I say yes to that transaction, and by the way, 10 to 40% of the traffic that goes through McDonald's worldwide every day, 10 to 40% say yes to, would you like fries with that? But there's 2 more words at all. They hook to that explodes their profits up even higher. When you and I say yes, they say, supersize you. Boom. They just added additional profit. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how small companies grow exponentially. Are you following what we're telling you here? And notice, they didn't discount the price of the first set of fries or the supersize. That stock went up because expensive went down. If Tall has a stock, he looks online or on his phone, he said, oh, my stock just went up. They figured out how to get more money out of you and I for less upfront expense. That's called profit. And they're doing it exponentially. Now, the beauty is, ladies and gentlemen, please, do not assault me at all by saying you don't sell hamburger, because you're missing the point. An upsell, we call that an upsell. I don't know what your term is at all. Some people call it
Upsell.
a bump. Same thing. What you do is, you notice how when you buy something on Amazon, the moment that credit card clears, they put a little thumbnail up there and say, hey, if you like that, you might like this. That's an upsell, people. That's how you make money. So what I was going to say is, you figure out what your product or service is. You find people like Atul who has a front-end product, and you say, hey, man, let's put this on the back of what you're doing. Thing above cost, I'll split with you 50-50 at first. And as soon as you reach a certain volume, it'll go 80-20, meaning you keep 80 and I'll keep the 20, because I want all the additional purchases that one customer is going to bring me. So I'm willing to forego some of that front end profit. I hope this isn't too mysterious for you guys, but this is simple, basic, fundamental stuff. If you start doing this stuff, I guarantee your business will start moving forward. Or your service, guarantee.
Okay, so for our listeners who want to know more about you or want to get some help from you, where can they go?
My goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, I sincerely hope that's the case. Are you going to have my website in the show notes?
Yes, it will.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go to, this is all one word, YOU, CAN, marketonlinenow.com. Do not skip any spaces. Okay? You can marketonlinenow.com. That's my self-hosted WordPress blog. There is a ton of content on there. But I got to say this, Todd, I'm not trying to be arrogant or pompous. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to my WordPress blog, and I sincerely hope you do, if you'll read 3 blog posts in 3 different categories, not in the same day, but 3 different categories, if you can't find 3 ideas to at least test, I'm not your guy. No offense. Okay? I'm not. Because there is a ton of content there. I promise you. And I will send Atul my LinkedIn address because I'm also on, we're both on LinkedIn. I got to send him a connection notice because we got to get connected. But I'm also on LinkedIn. You can go there and read his stuff and mine. There's a ton. There's no way you're going to tell me you can't come up with some ideas. And if you say you can, then we're just not a match. No offense. We're just not. Because there's just too much out here for you to be telling me you can't move off center. Baloney.
Okay, Mark, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and sharing your wisdom. And it was really great having you here.
It's been my pleasure, my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, you tell him you want me back. Okay. All right, but I totally appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, brother.